They're not just leaving. They're leaving and not looking back. In today's video, Top 10 Cities Losing the Most Black People in the United States, we dive into one of the most underreported yet jaw-dropping trends, reshaping America's urban landscape. The Black Exodus is real, and it's rewriting the story of U.S. cities faster than overpriced rent goes up in a revitalized neighborhood. Black communities are packing up, moving out, and redefining what home means. And no, this isn't just about chasing sunshine or cheaper groceries. From subtle gentrification to outright cultural erasure, these U.S. cities experiencing decline in Black population are becoming cautionary tales of what happens when racial demographics collide with economic factors, urban migration, and decades of systemic neglect. So which cities are losing Black residents faster than a landlord evicts tenants before a remodel? What's pushing folks out? And more importantly, where are they going? We'll unpack all of it with a healthy dose of facts, curiosity, and maybe a touch of side-eye at how things got this bad. Stick around to the end. You won't believe which city tops the list. And hey, while you're here, like, comment, and subscribe for more from Virtual Travel by Brian. Number 10. Gary, Indiana. Once the pride of Black middle-class America, now it feels like Gary is slowly being erased from the map. In the 1960s, Gary was booming with a Black population empowered by steady jobs in the steel industry. But today, the city has lost over 60% of its total population since its peak, and a huge chunk of that is Black residents. Steel mills shut down, jobs vanished, schools closed, and now Gary feels more like a documentary on decline than a functioning city. You ever seen a place where entire blocks are just trees reclaiming houses? Yeah, that's Gary now. Between 2000 and 2020, the city's Black population shrank from about 84,000 to roughly 57,000. That's not a dip, that's a population evacuation. And while some cities at least try to attract new residents or diversify their economies, Gary seems stuck in a loop of underinvestment and missed opportunities. But here's the kicker. The people leaving aren't just running away. They're looking for stability. And the hard truth is, many former Gary residents are finding more safety, better schools, and employment options elsewhere. So here's a question. When a city that once symbolized upward mobility for Black families becomes a warning sign, what does that say about the promises of American industry? Number 9. Atlanta, Georgia. Wait, Atlanta? The Black Mecca? Yup. While the metro area is thriving, the city of Atlanta has been quietly bleeding Black residents for years. In 2000, Black people made up about 61% of Atlanta's population. By 2020, that number dropped to around 47%. That's a seismic shift in just 2 decades. Why? Gentrification with a capital G. Think shiny beltline trails, luxury condos where your grandma's house used to be, and brunch spots popping up faster than potholes. The cost of living shot up, longtime residents got priced out, and suddenly the neighborhoods that once buzzed with Black culture are now urban chic. And here's the irony. People aren't necessarily fleeing Georgia. They're moving just a few miles outside to places like Gwinnett, Cobb, and Clayton counties. Atlanta didn't lose the people, it just made them commute longer. So when a city builds up its skyline but loses its soul, what do you call that? Progress or displacement? Number 8. St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis isn't just losing Black residents, it's practically rolling out the red carpet for them to leave. Between 2000 and 2020, the city's Black population dropped by more than 27,000. In 2022 alone, the number slipped from about 120,000 to 113,000. And that's not including the surrounding metro area, that's just the city. What's driving folks out? For starters, decades of disinvestment, sky-high crime rates, and an education system that often feels like it's on life support. Oh, and don't forget, the economic opportunity gap wide enough to drive a moving truck through. The Del Mar divide is real, like a literal line where north of Del Mar is heavily Black and underfunded, while south is white and well-resourced. Sound familiar? What's truly wild is that nearby suburbs are picking up the slack. Places like Florissant and Ferguson, yes, that Ferguson, are seeing rising Black populations. St. Louis City? Not so much. So here's something to chew on. When a city's Black population is shrinking while its suburbs are swelling, is that really growth or just strategic pushing? Number 7. Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson has long been a majority black city. But even here, the numbers are slipping. Between 2010 and 2020, the city lost about 6,489 black residents, and the trend hasn't slowed since. The capital city of Mississippi is facing a trifecta of disasters: crumbling infrastructure, contaminated water systems, you remember that 2022 water crisis? And a government that can't seem to get it together. And we're not talking little things. We're talking basic survival. When your city's water isn't safe to drink and public services are falling apart, can you blame people for packing up? Here's what's even more troubling. Jackson isn't being rebuilt. It's being abandoned. The state government's recent attempts to take over parts of the city's administration, that hasn't exactly inspired confidence either. Residents aren't just fleeing poverty, they're fleeing what feels like planned neglect. So ask yourself, what happens when a majority black city is left to fend for itself? Number 6. Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, Florida. This one might surprise you. South Florida is known for sunshine, palm trees, and a shrinking black population. Between 2010 and 2020, the region lost over 10,000 black residents. Why? Let's start with cost. Miami's housing market has gone from expensive to "are you serious" levels. Gentrification is sweeping through places like Liberty City, Overtown, and Little Haiti like a hurricane with a real estate license. The result? Black families who've lived in the area for generations are being pushed out, priced out, and in some cases bought out. They're relocating to cities like Orlando, Tampa, and even Jacksonville, places where rent won't devour your entire paycheck before payday. And if you're wondering whether this is just a coastal issue, think again. This is what urban migration looks like in the 21st century. Shiny condos rising while black history disappears brick by brick. So the question is, how do you preserve culture in a city that values condos over communities? We're halfway through the countdown. If you are enjoying the video so far, hit the like button, subscribe to Virtual Travel by Brian, and ring the notification bell for more informative content. Let's get back into it. Number 5. Washington, D.C. Once known proudly as Chocolate City, D.C. is now looking more like a half-melted swirl cone. In 1970, black residents made up about 71% of the population. Fast forward to 2020, and that number has dropped to just under 45% and falling. So what happened? Short answer, gentrification on steroids. The kind where a $600 a month apartment in a historically black neighborhood suddenly becomes a $3,000 yoga studio with oat milk smoothies. And yes, they will call the cops on your barbecue. But here's the twist. The city did improve. New parks, better transit, shinier everything. Yet somehow, the people who stuck around through decades of disinvestment weren't the ones who got to enjoy the benefits. They got priced out, faster than you can say, Whole Foods on every corner. And it's not just economics, it's erasure. Cultural landmarks are vanishing, go-go music battles, noise complaints, and generational homes are being flipped like pancakes. So, here's the question. When the city that was once a symbol of black political power and pride starts looking unfamiliar, what message is it sending to the people who built it? Number 4. Los Angeles, California. Hollywood may be booming, but LA's black population? Not so much. Over the past few decades, black Angelenos have been quietly disappearing from the city grid. Once vibrant neighborhoods like South Central and Crenshaw are changing fast and not in ways that feel welcoming. The black population in Los Angeles County has declined from almost 10% in 1990 to around 7.6% in 2020. And in the city itself, it's even lower. Gentrification is again the culprit, but here it has a particularly polished, Instagrammable flavor. Think vegan cafes, microbreweries, and $6 donuts in areas that, just 15 years ago, were full of working-class black families and decades of culture. And don't forget the astronomical rent. A one-bedroom apartment in the city averages over $2,800 a month, unless you're cool with a micro-loft the size of a closet and no parking. So where are folks going? Inland Empire, Vegas, Texas. Anywhere that doesn't require selling your car, your blood, and your soul just to survive. How does a city with so much fame and fortune still fail to provide room for the communities that helped build its cultural heartbeat? Number 3. Detroit, Michigan. Detroit is a story of extremes. Once a powerhouse of black industry, music, and political activism, the city now resembles a cautionary tale in urban collapse. In 2000, Detroit had over 775,000 black residents. By 2020, that number had dropped to about 590,000. That's nearly 200,000 black people gone in just 2 decades. Jobs dried up when the auto industry imploded, schools fell apart, crime skyrocketed. And then came the foreclosures by the thousands. Even when the city began its so-called revival, it was a selective one. The gentrification of Midtown and downtown didn't trickle out to the west side or east side. Nope. Instead, the investments came with a shiny new stadium and a long list of eviction notices. So here's the irony. Detroit's renaissance is happening without the very people who stuck with it through the worst. The Motor City lost its motor, and many black residents decided to take the wheel and drive far away. What does it say when a city rises from the ashes but forgets to invite its core community to the table? Number 2. New York City, New York. The city that never sleeps is apparently also the city that slowly edged out nearly 200,000 black residents between 2000 and 2020. That's right, 200,000. Gone. Vanished like affordable rent in Brooklyn. Once upon a time, places like Harlem, Bedford-Stuyvesant, and the South Bronx were hubs of black culture, activism, and resilience. Today, they're buzzing with dog parks, designer coffee, and a suspicious number of beard oil shops. The black population dropped from about 2.3 million in 2000 to under 2 million in 2020. And spoiler alert, it's still falling. And let's not even get started on rent. A 2-bedroom apartment in Harlem that cost $900 in the early 2000s, it's now pushing $4,000. And that's if it doesn't come with a luxury pet spa and mandatory bike storage you'll never use. What's worse? Many of these neighborhoods were revitalized on the backs of black communities who stuck it out during the bad times. But as soon as property values rose, so did the for sale signs. So here's your food for thought. When culture becomes a selling point for outsiders, but a reason for displacement for locals, who's really benefiting? Number 1. Chicago, Illinois. And here we are, Chicago, the undisputed heavyweight champion in the race to lose its black population. Between 2000 and 2020, Chicago lost over 260,000 black residents. That's a drop so big it's hard to wrap your head around. It's like erasing a mid-sized city. Public housing demolitions, violent crime, underfunded schools, and aggressive gentrification all played a part. Remember Cabrini Green? It's now townhomes and high-rises with rooftop views, while many former residents were scattered far across the suburbs or completely out of state. Chicago's black population peaked in the 1980s at over 1.2 million. By 2020, it had dipped below 800,000. That's not a population change. That's an urban exodus. And the most heartbreaking part? It wasn't a mass migration to opportunity. Many people left because they felt they had to. Because staying meant dealing with broken promises, broken systems, and broken neighborhoods. So ask yourself this. What happens when a city once known for its rich black history and powerful political voice turns into a place black families can no longer afford or even feel safe to live in? Want more insights on the changing face of America's cities? Then go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe to Virtual Travel by Brian. These stories matter, and you deserve to know where the trends are heading before you're caught in one.